And welcome everyone who may be joining us later. This is the Healing Field. It's April 29th, 2020. And the Healing Field is a part of the Connection Field, a Good of the Whole initiative that began through the Mentoring Stewards. And we're here to create an expanding field of love and connection. And boy, it has been just that. Maybe Nahid will share more on her beautiful experience of love and connection today. But the Healing Field is a part of the Connection Field. We also have just some open hours. We call the Resonance Lounge, noon to 5 Eastern every day, where you can come in and just be and connect and find companionship, find community, find love. So that's wonderful. There's also several other offerings, including meditations. Linda has a Japa Mala meditation every evening at 10 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live. Nahid and Ken have a program on Thursdays called Rumi's Field. Elizabeth just finished up one. Elizabeth, help me with the title again.
We are a rising tide.
Yes, we are a rising tide. I love that. And there's much more. There's a men's group, there's a couples group, there's a Radical Earth Resonance, and there's a sound healing, and then there's many offerings from Brother Phil, Chief Phil Lane Jr. Is doing a Sacred Tree on Sunday. So there's just lots. So go to goodofthewhole.org and sign up to receive that weekly digest. It's so important. It gives you the times, the days, and the access to get into here and participate or volunteer as well. So we'd love to have you volunteer. Come on in and help us host the Connection Field. Good of the Whole is really an organism, becoming a superorganism where no one owns Good of the Whole, everyone owns Good of the Whole. Our vision is a world where every individual feels valued, connected, and whole. And I love to breathe into that when I say it. I said it today with an accountant and an attorney, and they went, oh. So it was really nice to say that in that space. And our mission is to cultivate an ethos of wholeness and nurture our innate capacity to live for the good of the whole. And with that innate capacity to live for the good of the whole, it also moves us into serving individually and locally and planetarily as we look toward whole systems health and healing for our planet and all our inhabitants, and really expanding a whole world view. So again, you can find out more at goodofthewhole.org. Join us there, become a mentoring steward, bring your gifts, and we're expanding all the time. We'd love to have your participation. So the Healing Field, we're on week 4. And week 1, we talked a lot about the unified field of consciousness and how that relates to health and healing this time on the planet. Then in week 2, we talked more about the experience of wholeness and how that can be translated into personal, local, and global health and healing. And then week 3, we talked about the codes for a healthy earth and looked at our responsibility of stewarding health on the planet for the planet, and how our health is so interrelated with the health of the planet, pure water, clean air, healthy soil, vitalizing food, all of those things that are defined in Codes for a Healthy Earth. And you can find the codes at codes.earth. And so tonight we're going to go into more of what does it look like to create the conditions for healing to come forward, and perhaps have us muse into what health and healing is evolving into as we move forward. So I'm going to just cover a few things, tips and tools, and give us a little prompt, and then we're going to explore. But first, we're going to do a little attunement and bring us into that field and perhaps bathe in that field for a couple moments. So relax yourself in your chair. Close your eyes if you're able. Just bring your awareness to your breath. Just the natural ebb and flow of your body, expanding and contracting at the prompt of air, oxygen coming in, exchanging, nourishing, giving life, and cleaning and releasing carbon dioxide. Just bring your awareness to that gentle movement and the relationship of your heart to your breath. We're expanding into that heart field. With each breath, I invite you to expand that electromagnetic field around the heart. You might want to place your hands on your heart. Just bring in your awareness that every breath, we expand that field around us 360 degrees, behind us, to the sides of us, in all directions. And as we come into that heart space, just come into this knowing, the knowing of our fullest potential, a knowing of the divine intelligence that is breathing us. A knowing of that sacred source that beats our heart, and we beat the heart of the whole. And a remembering of this unified field of love, of resonance, of consciousness. Knowing that we don't have consciousness, we are consciousness. And with the intimacy of the interdependent relationship, it's hard to describe because it's not even, there's no separation. Our language does not describe this interdependence. But with this field that we inform, and this field informs us. Breathe some gratitude into this unified field that we talk of. Gratitude for the life, the awareness, the health and the wholeness. That when we come here in resonance together and bring our hearts and minds together in coherence, that we amplify this field. And as we amplify the field, we come into this place where literally our body remembers. The home frequency, we call it. Our body remembers its wholeness. Every cell vibrates and responds to its optimal functioning. We breathe our own health from this place. We breathe into our wholeness. And we breathe into the health and wholeness of one another. It gives new meaning to where two or more are gathered in my name, I shall be there. Here we are gathering in this healing field, this connection field. And that source of all healing is right here, right now. Allow that field to breathe you for a few minutes. Just become aware what this experience is. With each breath, we strengthen and amplify the creative potential, the regenerative function, creating more life. So let's bring our awareness back to one another here. Coming into our time together. Welcome, Linda. And it's nice to see you. I hope you stay around and you can be on computer, because I'm going to put you on the spot, Linda, in a little bit here. I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to just share just a few. I have 5 little points here as we're talking about creating the conditions for healing to come forward. And then I'm going to put Linda on the spot during that time. Then I'm going to put Nahid on the spot and ask her about her intention. And then we're just going to muse together, because as we come back in, there's so many ancient and incredible tools and techniques and philosophies and models of care. There's so many different ways that we talk about healing. And one of the things we've talked about every week is that really our job is to create the conditions for healing to come forward. And as we're looking at the shift of consciousness on the planet and looking at consciousness, I'm going to just share one of my favorite handouts that when I talk to large audiences who really aren't in the circles with us, who are, just no matter who it would be, common folks. I hate to say that, it sounds like it's a judgment, but when I talk to a general public audience, oftentimes I'll bring this handout out and put it up on the screen, and it really helps people go, oh, I get this now. So if you're interested in it, just send me a note. I know all of you. You have my email, julie@goodofthewhole.com, and I'll send you this handout. But I'm just going to share the screen before I share these 5 things. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here as we talk about our shift now moving forward. So this screen, this is from Richard Barrett, who has the Barrett Values Center. And I'm not going to read it all. And it's, and you don't have to read it all either, because I'll give this to you. But what I want to show you, if you could see my mouse here, is that he talks about these 7 layers and levels. And what I love about Richard Barrett's work is he's taken Ken Wilber and a lot of really academic models of consciousness and brought it into simplicity. And he works with large groups, communities, countries even. And so what I love about this is that he talks about the personal, how it's manifested and expressed in the personal domain. He talks about the organizational, what that looks like in organizational, and what it looks like in community and society. But here's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to, again, like I said, have you look at this specifically, but look at this number 4, the screen going across, as kind of a little turning point. It's about transformation, interestingly enough. But if you look over here on the right, there's self-interest and common good. So as we're talking about this, I'm going to talk about consciousness and healing for a moment. And I want us to think about, there's several layers of consciousness, levels of consciousness. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second and explain. Many of you know all of this, but I just want to do this for the benefit of anyone that might be watching, is that there's levels of consciousness. And then there is, if you're thinking about levels, we're talking about developmental levels. And there's states of consciousness, which are very different things. A state of consciousness can be a non-ordinary state of consciousness, as in a near-death experience. It could be a state of consciousness where we have an out-of-body experience during meditation. It could be the oneness experience we have on the mountaintop. A state of consciousness is different than the levels of consciousness. And levels of consciousness are much like developmental levels that we've learned about as we grow and develop over our lifetime, or several lifetimes perhaps. So with Richard Barrett, what I want to talk about first is that those 2 things, the self-interest and the common good, are much like separation consciousness and unitive consciousness. We talk about that a lot. That's the evolution of consciousness that we've all really looked at and understand. And so I just want to split them into 2 instead of all the layers when I'm making some of these comments, because it's easier to go, oh yeah, separation consciousness and unitive consciousness, and what those differences are. Is that clear with everybody? Just a nod? Yeah? Okay. So I just want to talk about 5 things here really quick that with healing on the planet right now, our health and our healing, we talked about how with the shift, I don't know what it's going to look like. What is our healthcare system going to look like? We're going to talk about that. What is the delivery of care going to look like? But one of the things that's really important is the empowerment of the client or patient, of really moving others into that idea that, oh, we're creating the conditions for healing to come forward, and I'm in charge of my health and wholeness, that this is my experience. Now, with those in the lower levels, they're going, I know, I need to go to a doctor, and you need to give me medicine, or you need to give me a treatment, or I'm coming to the chiropractor because you have to give me an adjustment. Or so in that separation consciousness, oftentimes we look outside of ourselves for health and for healing. Whereas in unitive consciousness, we understand, oh, I'm a part of this. Now, it doesn't mean I can't have someone, and this is why I'm going to put Linda on the spot here in a minute. It's like I can go to a healer And that healer is helping to facilitate. The healer is helping to create those conditions. The healer is helping me to see what I can't see and offering me and helping to raise that vibrational field. There's a lot of roles for the healer, but when they're in the separation consciousness, oftentimes they're not empowered. So when I say that, medicine, really the medicine, whether it's a beautiful indigenous shamanic journey or something very, no matter what it is, that medicine needs to really match our consciousness. But moving forward, we used to say, if you believe you need a pill, then you go get a pill. And that's the placebo works that way, right? If you need something outside of yourself, then people respond. Those who believe that respond to that. Those who understand different respond different. So it's still our job to empower them to continue to hold that highest vibrational frequency. So even if they're here and they're not quite in that unitive consciousness yet and don't feel empowered, that we do everything in our power to remind them, to hold that field, to create the resonance, to give them that experience of wholeness, that as we're holding that, they begin to experience that and awaken to something. You never know with something you will say or do that will impact another. You never know. I just mentioned it on our Mentoring Stewards call. I had someone from 10 years ago say, do you remember when you told me this? And we don't know. We don't know how our actions are going to affect someone. So then the second piece is the trust, the relationship of trust, and creating a coherence between the provider, between us, between others that we're working with. That coherence, that resonance, that trust is of utmost importance. If there's anything in that relationship that doesn't feel right, it's really important to just bring it into the relationship. And it's okay to bring it in the relationship. It's okay for us to say, I'm sensing this, because we're clearing out a lot of energy. So understanding those levels of consciousness, obviously when we get to unitive consciousness, we're also in relationship with water, we're in relationship with earth, we're in relationship with air, we're in relationship with the whole in a whole different way than people down here. How many of us know someone, here's just a good example. Do you know anyone in 2020 that does not recycle? I do. Yeah. And you think, how can you not recycle when your consciousness is of earth consciousness and what have you, when you have that intimate relationship and you understand what's happening, it's really hard to not. The other day I went through a drive-through and they handed me a straw and I went, and then I went, oh, I didn't bring my own straw today. And I'm like holding the straw going, oh my gosh, what? And so like as we're playing with these levels of consciousness, our responsibility is really important. And remember, hold that highest vibrational frequency, or this highest vibrational frequency. I always go highest when really it's this, it comes from here. Holding this highest vibrational frequency, and they will attune to that eventually. So that's another important piece. So we're prescribing where they're at and leading them forward. It's an important piece. And then I just mentioned the heart. The fourth thing that I wanted to mention is really understanding, as we all do, heart intelligence and heart resonance. And teaching and mentoring from that place as practitioners is of utmost importance. There's such intelligence in the heart. And if they still are coming from here or the place of separation, they're typically not aware of their own heart intelligence, and they're not aware of what it means to create resonance with others. So it's another really important tool for us to have in our toolbox. And Again, I refer to HeartMath all the time for very simple, efficient, effective tools and techniques that you can get like this to help people create more heart coherence. Very easy. And of course, the Monday morning global heart resonance call and other practices that we have here at Good of the Whole. And then finally, I just want to talk about the role of connection. That what we're seeing, that's of course right now with COVID, is there's a lot of digital. It's amazing. Telemedicine is taking over. People literally, it will be, well, I can't get to my provider. It's okay, just call telehealth, and they're on. And a lot of insurance carriers have free telehealth. So you buy an insurance plan, instead of them paying for you to go into the clinic and see a doctor and run a bunch of tests or do whatever, literally the telehealth is free. And so you give them a call and they look at you and they give you suggestions or tell you you need to go to a doctor because you need a prescription for something, but they'll look at your eczema, they'll look at, like, it's amazing how much usage. I'm saying that from the wife of an insurance salesperson, an insurance businessman that is watching the whole practice of medicine changing before our eyes, especially during COVID. So what can we add to that? We know how to create a beautiful resonant field online. We know how to sit in resonance and how to treat one another in a whole different way than what we're used to. You call telehealth and they're very getting you in and out, and they're very short and sweet. And that's a very different kind of experience than coming into a resonant field and allowing that intelligence and the heart to lead and to guide. I love today on the Mentoring Stewards call when they were saying being guided by grace. It's like, oh yes. It's fun to hear that we taught that in the Mentoring Stewards call, is to be guided by grace. And that's what we can do online as healers, as leaders, as, I hate to say leader because leading means somebody has to follow, but mentors. So creating connection. And we already talked about how to create connection with earth, water, how to create connection with one another, how to create connection with the cosmos, and how to create connection with your heart. So always remember connection. It will be the medicine of the future. This wholeness, understanding that wholeness, bringing us into wholeness, the experience of wholeness is one of the most important healing tools we have. So I'm going to put Linda on the spot. Are you ready, Linda Lou?
Do I have a choice?
You do, but you're not gonna feel bad.
I choose to be put on the spot by you.
Okay, thanks. Talk about creating a field. And I want to share with you that we all have different healing modalities that we choose for ourselves. We all have healers in our lives, and we do self-healing. We study energy fields, we study chakras, we might go to a sound healing or sound bath, we might be studying crystals or herbs. I'm doing an herbal cleanse right now, and this cleanse is different than any cleanse I've ever done. And I'm like, wow, I just had mentioned I'm going to do a cleanse. I realized I haven't done a cleanse in 2 years. And he's like, oh, I'm on one right now. And it's just an herbal cleanse. It's a very different cleanse than I've ever done. And it's amazing. So when I say that, I want to just presence that finding, like looking at those 5 things that I talked about, that trust and that empowerment and creating the field and understanding connection and what have you. Linda Linker Rosenthal is one of the most powerful healers I've ever been in the presence of. And I mean that so sincerely. The field that Linda brings in, the healing field that you create, Linda, is incredible. And I've laid on many healers' tables in my lifetime and have worked with healers, and I am a healer and I'm a Reiki master. None of that training, never before have I laid on a field as powerful and as coherent as having the privilege of being on that table with Linda at sunrise. So here's where I want to put you on the spot, Linda. If you can share, what do you think is most important when you're creating a healing field? Because you're a master.
I had to take a breath on that. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so the first thing is, it's not that I'm a powerful healer, but I'm a clear channel. And the idea is like, get out of the way. So that's the first thing that happens to me, is it's not me and it's not about me, but I show up. And what comes through is magnificent. And I'm sitting here tonight with a little bit of a bittersweet, emotional tug at my heart, because tonight was to be scheduled the last community Reiki healing sanctuary that we've offered every month at Unity, and the community comes in, and I love that time because I've connected with students who've learned Reiki, and now they're there, and the whole community is coming in, and the Reiki practitioners are serving, and it was supposed to be tonight, and it would be the last one, because the building, the sanctuary, was sold, and it won't be there anymore. But we're not there, and so whenever I think about what is it that I do, I go back to doing Reiki with people who come in, every half an hour. And so I think, basically what I've said is I've learned to get out of the way. And when I have my hands on someone, I don't see their disease. I don't see this black shadow over here, or this something that's closed your chakras. I don't see any of that. I see them so perfectly whole and divine. And it's the energy that I'm envisioning, that, and I'm talking the whole time to the person. But it's not me talking. It's almost as if we're just raising the vibrations together and holding them in a place where I see this perfection. There is no disease here. They come in thinking they have a disease, but we work to a place where it's like, okay, like you said, just holding that so that they can move up into the vision, into the embodiment and the experience of their own energy field connecting with the larger field that does the healing. And I'm always like humbled and honored, and I love it. I love being just so present with that energy, that what happens. And sometimes I know, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I know that people have come in so despondent and wanting to commit suicide, that we found out, and after the healings did not, and went on to, quite a few people at that point of depression, where they've actually said that, done, I'm done. And so I want to get back to that question, Julie, because I very clearly remember a woman who's my friend now, but she was a client a long time ago, and I remember she called me at like 2 a.m. You know, set boundary. You don't talk to people at 2 a.m. But she was so desperate. She was going to commit suicide. And I just listened. I just listened. And she said to me at the end of that, if you had told me I need to go see a doctor, or I better get to a hospital, or you were worried about me, she said, that would have been the breaking point. But I didn't say that to her. I just held her in a place of love. There was no judgment. There was no trying to fix, control. It's like, if this is what you need to do, I'm loving you through this. And all she needed was the love to say, okay, I don't need to kill myself now. She just needed the love. And that's where I think our power is to truly be present. And it makes me want to cry. I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about this tonight. It is that power of, and as you said, Julie, an undefined love. We used to call it unconditional love. Like, there's no conditions, there's no judgments, there's no expectations to this love. There's no opinions to this love. It's just love. And the love is doing it. You know, we all know what that love is. It's not a personal love. It's not my love. It's allowing and being so present with that love. And that's what does the healing. That's the medicine. So if we as healers are in that space, then something will happen.
Beautiful.
So thank you so much for letting me share that.
Thank you for bringing in the word love. And I love, yes, you are this clear vessel for the love to come through and do the loving. The loving's doing the healing. It's a beautiful picture. Thank you. Welcome, Dana. We're just in the middle of a conversation. You're welcome to join us here. Thank you for coming on in. So, yeah, the love. And so as a mental health practitioner, as my former job, if she would have called me at 2 a.m, my obligation would be very different than to just sit in love with her and sit and listen and be present. And because somewhere I would have to say, you know, I'm legally and morally responsible. I'm legally responsible to you know, it's like, yeah, that response is different from the medical model. And look what a gift that you gave that woman, just being there and holding the love. Ken.
Yeah, can I ask Linda a question? Did you always have the awareness to be present? Did it just come upon you at some time, or did you sort of develop it? Do you remember when it sort of kind of appeared?
Whew. That's a very interesting question.
I'll tell you why I ask, okay?
Yeah, tell me why you're asking that, because it's hard to just say, oh, well, here's the answer.
Well, I had an experience when I was 22 years old, and it was involved with a religious group. You pray over people, okay? Charismatics, okay, no big deal. But then people started to come up saying, you healed me. Okay, fine, all right? Somebody else would come up, you healed me. Yeah, right, okay. Then I left the one location because I was in the military and I was transferred to another. I got involved with another group. Same thing started happening. And it's like, I don't want anything to do with it. And because I wasn't considering myself a healer, I didn't want to get involved with the medical or the church. So I says, I'm out of here. You know, it's like, I don't need this. The reason why I ask is I found when people start getting in touch with their heart, they often start revealing gifts and abilities that even surprises them. And I think I ask because I see a lot of people trying to, how do I say this? I want to be a healer, so let me hang my shingle up. I've had this training, that training, or whatever. It's like the traditional shaman never was trained by a shaman. They had some kind of experience, and then they went and found somebody who said, hey, can you help me with this experience I had? And then they sort of started tutelage. It's like something you stumble into. What I'm wondering is since this is about healing, the kind of healing that is being discussed is exactly what Julie said. If you get credentials, you start falling into the mental pattern, I got to honor the credentials. When you know that it's about being present in love, you take all the credentials, you throw them out the door. But then again, you know, it's funny, and this is a time to introduce it. When we were doing the meditation, 3 things, and then 4th thing popped into my mind. I'm sitting there saying, oh, that's interesting. And what it is what experience does the person think they need? What experience do they need? What experience do I think they need? And what experience do I need to give them? So, you know, it's like, well, I got credentials, so I think I got to give them this. And it's like, no, wait, stand back. What is it they need? And what are they asking you for? And they may say, I need a pill. And you say, well, then you need love, you know? And I think people forget what healing is really all about. And I just bring it up because I stumbled into it. I walked away from it. When I came back into it, it came back in a way I never expected. Excuse me. And it's like, how do you coach people into becoming a presence as opposed to thinking they need necessarily some credentials to be able to be that presence? I mean, it's a different modality. And the question is, does the person need an experience of that pill, as Julie had said previously, or do they need the experience that, hey, you're loved and you're cared for, and you can have the pill if you want it, but you know, there's other things you can do. So my question to you is sort of really a rhetorical question of how do you get somebody into their own power to be that presence that goes along with how do you get the person into their power to heal themselves? So that's kind of why I threw it out there.
So is that question for me or our Master Julie here?
I think I was asking you because you obviously have a gift to have presence, and a lot of people don't understand what it means what does it mean to be present to somebody? And that in itself, a lot of people don't understand. And then to have the ability to do that and become that channel, sometimes I think it's more of a gift that you've honed over many lifetimes. And you got drafted for this assignment, and they says, okay, you're on another calling. But anyways, so it's sort of to you, if it can be answered easily, it's sort of a rhetorical question because it's something I've always wondered about with people. So whatever, however you want to answer it.
I just want to breathe on that again too. It's like asking every one of us, you know, when did you first realize that you were who you are, you know, and embrace who you are. I probably have over lifetimes been that, and in this lifetime, just from the youngest that I can remember, there was something in me. I don't know where it came from. I guess it came from I don't know where it came from. There was something in me that couldn't, it's like if you know what a bodhisattva is, as a little child, I felt like perhaps And I had no idea what that was, but I felt when someone was hurting, and there was no way that I would ever hurt anybody or anything. Nothing. No way. No, nothing. I mean, one time I swatted a spider that was on my arm and it made me feel bad. You know? So there's something in my DNA that says bring no harm. Bring no harm. And that's been since I was little and as a teenager. And I was very hard on myself if I said something that hurt somebody's feelings. Like, ooh, how do I do that? And that was probably the worst of it, until I learned really how to stop being in conflict with myself and start loving what was. And I think that then becomes the practice over time, is reminding ourselves that our ego wants to hang up the shingle, and our egos, we're trained that way, I think, right, Julie? In this society, like, oh, I have the credentials, therefore I have to act this way. And I kind of kept moving away, even though I have credentials. It's like labels are for pickle jars. You know, the label doesn't mean anything. It's how you be. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think it was a little bit of a knowing, but I had no idea what that meant. Things would come to me in dreams mostly that would point the way of what I was doing, or what I was going to do. And now, honestly, I am so not on the grid. I am not I don't know. I don't want to say I'm different from anybody, because I'm not. I'm one with everybody. But it's really hard to answer that question. How did you know that you were a powerful healer or whatever you got? I don't know. I read a lot. I learned a lot. I'm lucky to hang out with people like Julie and all of you, and we learn from each other. And to me, just get out of the way. Get my ego out of the way is the best way to answer. And so being quiet when I was a child was natural for me. And as an adult, being quiet is now being really present. It's not that I'm quiet, it's that I'm able to be really present. So I hope that answered something for you, Ken. I'm not sure. I love it. Yes.
Very much so. And I tell you why I ask it is, I see a lot of potential in people that never gets developed because there's nobody to give them the space to claim their own identity. And so they struggle, especially empathic people. They don't know they're picking up other people and internalizing it. And so that's why I asked, because I've seen indicators that say, you know, this person has abilities, but there's nobody giving them the space for it to come out and for them to be allowed to make a few mistakes and say, oh, okay, this is what I can do. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
And that's what I've done with all the people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Empower.
I have another side of the story. The way you describe yourself as a young child, Linda, was very, very similar to myself. Pathologically shy, no voice, came out, it was like, ah! But very much empathetic. And when I went out on my own in the world, somehow something clicked in me and I got a strength that I had no idea I had. You know, I studied the saints at 9 years old, you know, and suddenly I left home at 17 and was on my own, and I was on my path, and I was on my journey, and I was becoming a healer. The healer was becoming me. And I had no teachers. You know, it was before the human actualization movement. I had no teachers. I was an innocent, protected by the angels. And I got what I got, and not all of it was kind. You know, not all of it was to my highest purpose. Not all of, because I didn't understand and others didn't understand. And I was studying Reiki, I was studying massage, I was studying all these things. And suddenly, at some point, I think my dreams started getting very active. And so I transferred, and I had children, so that changes everything. And I very intentionally put my healer self on a shelf and left it there for many years, because I didn't have the tools to understand, one, how to shield myself from that empathetic response that you speak of, Ken. And I needed to manage my life. My life was not easy. I had to manage my life, and I managed it the best way I knew how with the resources I had. And a lot of that was not allowing my dreamer self to reside in this world. And once my children left home, it was like, oh, how do I find this back? How do I bring her back? Because she's been on the shelf so long, she's pretty dusty. And it was finding, first it was finding grandmother Agnes and having her see me and recognize me and have me come sit by her side and say, you're an elder in training. You're going to sit here. I'm going to teach you. And she did it entirely through energetics. It wasn't lessons, but that's what it was. And so I think part of that is we need to create this world so that those of us that have this, and all of us do, it's in all of us, it's in every single one of us. And Linda, you were given the gift to listen. You were given the gift that you could listen to yourself and trust yourself, what Julie says, to trust that. And it's taken me a long time to find that trust again in who I am, and trust my voice and love it, just love it up. And I've always had that love, and unconditional love came to me at 17 when I started going out. That's what gave me my wings, was knowing that love would carry me, and it did, into remarkable experiences. So mostly it's creating a world that's safe, that those of us that are listening to that impulse of love and compassion and peace, and that we know we're okay. You know, I was the crazy one in my family. Even though I was in a really accepting family, I was still the oddball. And it's like, okay, at some point it's like, if I'm crazy, I'm the right kind of crazy. So just trust me to know that I'm not going to hurt anybody. And I'm not going to hurt those I love, and I love almost everybody. So thank you for allowing me to reflect on that.
Mm.
And the water. The water has taught me so much. I'm
Yeah.
crying.
Let's just love on you for a minute too.
And this morning I woke up unsettled and sad and feeling so much pain and feeling alone. And it's like, wait a minute, that's old story. And came onto the connection field and with Jose and Nana, Sudi, spoke directly to my heart from Guatemala. It's like, how did she know what I needed to hear? So, and I would offer that the diagram that you showed, Julie, is beautiful, but I'm believing that it's concentric, that really is concentric, that we come from the outside in, and we come closer into our core, more and more identifying with the cells of our body, which are teaching us, and trusting them. That trust is immense.
I agree with you on that. So many people put it in a pyramid or a vertical, and I just haven't drawn my own diagram. Maybe we should work on that, Elizabeth. We should all create our own, because it's
Well, that's where I remember those graphics that you saw the other night that we had built way back at the global golden moment, right? That's where that diagram was coming from, was taking that hierarchy of needs and seeing that it is a toroidal field of electromagnetics that is not hierarchical.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I'd like to add just that word healer. The healing, it comes from the root word whole. So as healers, what we're doing is we're holding someone in the space of wholeness, their wholeness. They're not damaged, separated, broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. They're already whole. And if they've forgotten that, which is why most people think they need some kind of healing, that's what a healer does. A healer makes whole. One who makes whole. If that helps.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Ken's comment here, and then I'll switch to Nahid here. But Ken, when you were talking about that spontaneous healing, again, looking at our consciousness of what, if we're believing in separation or believing in unitive consciousness and our wholeness, that as a whole being that believes in their wholeness, that understands unitive consciousness, coming to a healer like that, it's this relationship and partnership when we're co-creating greater health. And for someone in separation consciousness, that's what we'll see on TV a lot. It's like, I still believe something outside of myself will heal me, and I just had a miracle healing. Oh my God, it's a miracle! It's a miracle, and it's like you could see the difference between that beautiful dance, that intimacy of healer and patient, and it's beautiful. So thanks for sharing that, Linda. Thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth. Thanks for sharing that, and Nahid, you have tears. I can't wait for you to bring voice to that, and if there was an intention behind the need for a small group and intimacy, for you to put words to that tonight too.
I always have need for that. I cannot have enough of you individually, besides of what we have collectively. Oh, yeah, because you said that it would be 4 weeks, and I was wondering what you're going to do with that. So I want to say that when we did the attunement, I was very present and in deep gratitude for all of you, For you, Linda, I have personally experienced you, and I have loved you from deep, deep respect from the first moment. And I mean, Elizabeth, and Julie, and then Ken. And then I found myself, even though part of the same, the ingredient in the same soup, but it's, I am appreciating and praising the skills and abilities that you bring in action into the world, which I found myself very different. I don't have that desire. And I was wondering, I mean, I have spent all my life in the mind-body connection. You know, I studied biology, biochemistry, I taught physiology and biochemistry. I worked for Center for Drug for years, review drug applications. I mean, I've done all of that, but it's like, I feel paralyzed that my scientific mind cannot respond to this the way that I'm receiving it from you. For me, you said it, Linda, you repeated that a little bit. There is nothing broken to be fixed. So only, I would not call myself healer at all, even though in certain state of consciousness, I have received that I do that for me and I can do that for others. I never consider myself as that. I say I am a lover. And the condition that I create for another is to remember, not to heal, but to remember that they are the love itself. And not even that I love them. Is this what I had with Carol today? I don't know what you did with her, Linda, but I was in heaven. I mean, it's magic. Magic was happening. Out of nothing was happening. And I see how different I connect to, and this is, I'm very much grateful to Ken in my life. He's the one who brought understanding to my awareness and hold the space for that I see that for me. And to me, heart is nothing to do with heart math. I remember 20 years ago at Ion's webinar, when I would have spoken about the heart, they said, oh, heart math say the same thing. I said, what is heart math? And I do not see the heart as a tool. I see it as it's the breath of life. And it's looking at heart math. It's like the mind is saying, you know, that's how we have been conditioned. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do these 5 things and nothing is wrong with that. That's where the Western mind is. And that is where our skill is. And that's how we can access something. But this is the difference. Being inside of the field. And Linda said it. Just getting out of the way. And be present to that awareness of loving. And the rest will take care of it. Am I doing anything? No. I just connect to the source. And the source to the source, it does its job. And it's just remembering. So, I am getting this is, we have talked about the new paradigm for a long time. And it's coming to us in a different way. And it's, we are unique, each individual. We are very unique. We are the same, but what you are and can provide and be, Linda, is just so majestic and beautiful. I'm not saying that I am not. Mine is totally different. And then it is magnificent. I would say what I am seeing that is doing the healing is really the healing, the remembrance is to create the space for the beauty to be felt and seen and experienced. It's just unbelievable what can happen in that moment. So I would say when we do it enough for somebody can hold this space, and I go through that repeatedly, and I can do it for me, then I know nothing is wrong when I am with another one, and then I become Linda. I become that loving presence. And I would just be in that love affair. I caught myself later today because Carol was in the shade. It was in the total darkness. And she revealed herself that she doesn't like her face, her feature. And so she said, what I feel is not, I don't like it. I don't want other people to feel like that. And then it's like she came to the light and was kind of fully exposed. And seeing the beauty for the first time. She was saying, it's like my face is not mine. I am looking at that. My body, it is not mine. What is this? I've never seen that. What is happening? So I don't know what was happening. But that was her experience. It's like, what do I want to give them? Versus, it's like, how I choose to be out of the way, fully present for what needs to be experienced. And then that happens. It seems it is much simpler than what we think it is. But it has some kicking and screaming, obviously. We all have done it. We still would do it. And that's the juicy part of being entertained by the physical creation. I don't know if any of that makes sense. I don't have words to say what is possible. But I was telling Linda when she came in, and I went and didn't have breakfast because I was there, before 9. I went and then I had my lunch, breakfast, and then I was thinking about you to come back. I was saying that to Caro and Michelle prior to hosting for Shirley and being with Caro, when 3 of us was there. I said there are the things that came forward and was expressed, I could not express that in the space of with the mentors. When us together, when it is 10, 12 of us together. And I'm not making that wrong. But I noticed that when it's like the openness that I was experiencing, the deliciousness of that field that I was with Carol and Michelle, it was, the whole gate was open, and what came forward was truly sacred. All brand new, whatever happened there. And I said, is this being recorded? And Michelle was saying, no, that was sacred. That was not supposed to be. It was just ours, were 3 of us. So I found myself that I am a lover, that I can go deep with one at a time. And it's like the resonance field would give me the allowance, the permission, the yes, the green light, that how deep and where to go when it's more of us together, which I don't give myself permission most of the time. But so I pray. I told Carol, it's like, how could you make love? I want to make love with you. How could I make love with you when you are in the dark? But then later, I remember when I was having my lunch, oh, we always make love, you know, in the dark, under the blanket or whatever. We turn off the light. But this is the paradigm shift. It's a different lovemaking that I am learning as I'm saying this. And I've been telling that Barbara since 2011, you know, it's like, this is a public love affair. It's like, how can we become naked and exposed in front of each other? Which I see that most of the time I don't give myself permission, but in the presence of one. I don't know why, because maybe I'm more tuned to that energetic field. And it's like there's this path between us that I can go there and all the gifts are mine, all the blessings are mine. I am healed. I am whole more than ever. Wow. Thank you for what specifically 4 of you have brought to my life. And deep gratitude for you, Ken, and playing with us. I know it hasn't been, this is not your game the way that you know it. And thank you for that gold heart of yours.
I think I need to follow up and explain what I did for Naheed. I said I walked away from the healing experience. About 15 years later, I ended up having to share an office. My arm was twisted to take a job, and I had to share an office with a lady from South Philadelphia who was a very tough lady. She was a nice lady, but she was what I would call tough. And I walked in the second day we were in the office. We shared an office like 12 by 12 square feet. She came in crying. I said, "What's wrong, Pat?" She says, "I got breast cancer." And in the Navy, I was in the Medical Service Corps for some time, and I worked with a lot of physicians doing nuclear medicine and radiation therapy and all that stuff. I was a radiation physicist, so I did all of the support work. So I knew what was going to be expected and the whole thing. So the next 2 years, I spent in this office with this lady. She went through all of her therapy. She went through all of her feedback, and she turned into one of the most beautiful creatures I ever experienced. And I said, I literally saw a flower blossom. I saw this hard, tough lady, like a flower, germinate, grow, bud, flower, and then a fragrance went into the air. And it's like, wow. About 5 years after that, there was a lady who had a retarded daughter she tried to care for 5 years, almost drove her crazy until she put her in a home. Had a son that tried to commit suicide, had another daughter that was a little bonkers. And she asked me to go look at property to see about building a retreat center. And I'm saying, this doesn't make sense. She's got all of this stuff going on in her life and she wants to build this retreat center. And I wanted to advise her the best I could. So out of a profound compassion, I took a piece of string, put it on my heart, I put it on her heart and said, I'm going to read your heart, but you won't read mine. I'll put a valve in here so I can read yours, but you'll get no backflow. And my intention in doing that, like a ritual, like a shamanic ritual, is I wanted it for your heart. And I was led to create a series of rituals for her where she slowly shed a lot of stuff. It was like peeling an onion. And out popped this wonderful, playful spirit in a 100% secular arena that I saw back under a religious thing 20 years earlier. And in a twinkling of an eye, I understood what was in the heart, and that within each heart is like a seed. It comes in a shell, which we would call the body, and that seed needs to be nurtured the way you would nurture kind of a flower. I mean, you can literally, and if you think back, you can probably literally see people sort of germinate, then they grow, and they start to bud, and their talents come out, and then at some point in time, they just flower and their fragrance goes into the area. So what I did when I met Nahid was, it's like, okay, where's she at? Is she a seed? Is she a flower or whatever? And this is why I asked Linda about how did your thing unfold? Because I've come to understand within every heart is a seed. The question is, how do you create the space to allow that seed to germinate and come forward? And I hate to say it, I rely on my intuition totally. It's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to become to see this person blossom? It's like the observer changes what's observed. And I know my mind had created this person who has a problem. How do I observe, like you said, you know, at the highest level, that they're past that problem? So it's like holding that space. But how do I need to change what I think and believe in terms of what I need to do for them? If somebody said you create a bunch of rituals, you're going to free a psychological problem, I wouldn't have believed it until it happened. And now I look back and I say, oh, okay. And I kind of rely on my intuition. So if somebody said, what's your credentials? My comment is, I'm a creator. I create. There are no credentials for creativity in the unknown. And I say that because Nahid is all I did for her was give her the space and hold her accountable to her own heart. And well, you see the end product, and I don't claim it. It was always there. Somebody just needed to allow it to come out over time. And that's what I did. And that's kind of what I try and do for people. And it's a completely different model for healing. And I mention it only because I think in some ways you all do the same thing. It's just that we all have different talents. So, but I was very happy that I was pulled into Nahid's life, and well, what can I say?
I want to add something to what you said, Ken. Thank you. This is the place that we are sitting now. Our awareness to that seed within the heart that needs to be nurtured, to germinate. That seed is the awareness of the Creator. This is a new paradigm. It's like living from that awareness. The question that Ken just said, how would I live my life? Who would I be into? That in the connection field, from here to there, the beauty of the Creator shows up. It's very unique for each individual. We keep the connection field, and we have come such a long way. But then at a deeper level, for cleaning up the house, for to be that channel, to be that transmission and receiver, is we need somebody to hold our hand and make it safe and trusting to go through those traces of what is left to create together from that clear space. That would be a different co-creation.
I think, go back to the healer, it's about getting the person to heal themselves. That's actually being the creator. Within that person, taking ownership of their health. That is the creator essence unfolding. It's just that they see it as health and not as I can recreate my life. The other thing is the healer who says, what do I need to become to create this healed person in front of me? They're claiming their creative ability. So I think what Linda has done is she's got the ego out of the way and allowed that creative energy that created within her to create that loving space for whatever needs to unfold. That would be called a rainmaker in the Taoist tradition. You know, you surrender to the energy of creation and allow whatever has to happen, happen. It's different terminology, but if you say, wait a minute, this is the creator creating the health from within the person being healed. They have claimed their creator. Now, how do you take them the next step, which says you don't have to create illness, you can create a joyful life? I mean, why are you not living your passion, what's in your heart? And then that seed will then start to germinate and, you know, take off. And it's just a different paradigm. And we dance with it. We just never pay attention to what it really is. And in the field, the connection field, it makes perfect sense because that energy is flowing within each heart and out into creation. So
Very quickly, Nahid said it, I think, and I realized that in my story, what has brought me here and saved me, literally saved me, was becoming a lover. That the healer, that I was heading towards being a healer, and I realized I wasn't, you know, I need to heal myself first by loving and becoming a lover of and allowing the lover to love me, you know, the allowing the generative of God love me, not just me being a lover, but me being in that reciprocal journey of becoming a quantum lover, you know, as Ken says, as we see it, sort of, as we see it, we create it. As we see it, so be it. That quantum love, that level of love that is beyond our kin, you know, it's beyond our understanding. Yet here we are.
you know, on that point, we talk about love, but I'll say it was compassion that caused my world to collapse. But in many ways, it's compassion It's the love that you feel for what's in front of you and the compassion to do something about it. For example, Linda has tremendous compassion. Why? Because she says, ego, step out of the way, allow me to become that presence. I mean, Elizabeth said she didn't have anybody in her life to hold her hand and say, it's okay to come out, Elizabeth. She didn't have somebody with compassion to say, okay, I understand, Elizabeth, you got to come out. Let me give you the space. And I think, Julie, this is, I think, what you're asking is, how do we dance from that love into a compassion and do what we would call the correct thing, which comes from alignment with the healing field, and then call out that creator to say, heal yourself. And in one ways, it's a beautiful dance. In another way, it's challenging.
It's becoming less challenging all the time as consciousness is shifting on the planet. Well, it is 8:29 Central Time. Wow, like that went so fast. And I just want to invite, if Karen, Dana, if you want to just present yourself with a hello. We don't have time for much more than that, but I'd love to hear your voice if you want to presence yourself. And Dana, you're off mute, but we can't hear you right now. There you go.
I'm off mute and I say hello.
Dana, could you repeat that? I'm not sure what you said.
I just said hello. My connection isn't good.
Okay, that's why I couldn't hear you. Hello, Dana. Thank you for joining us tonight.
All connections are good in the connection field. I heard you say hello.
Karen.
Well, hello. It's been an interesting conversation that I just listened. I found a lot of bits and pieces of my own story within all of yours, and I'm still not sure how to answer your question, Julie. But I think with the shift that's going on now, we know that this is the direction to go. We know that there's nothing that cannot be healed because we were made this way. And so some of the stories relate to so many things that I've experienced and have learned. And so, but you all don't know me very well, so you haven't had any time with me like you have with the others. So, but someday I'll be able to share my journey too. That's okay. A lot of it's within all of you.
Yeah, thanks. I know you shared more on that first day, and you've shared with me personally, but thank you, Karen, for that. So, and we all hold everyone in our hearts here. We build this field together. So thank you. Just for those who don't know, again, get that weekly digest. Go to goodofthewhole.org, sign in, and you'll get all the upcoming schedule. And there's new things being added all the time. I heard today on a whole different call of people who were adding some things in with Brother Phil. So I'm anxious to get their offerings in. So watch for that weekly digest. And it's not coming out on a weekly basis. So sign up, it comes out whenever. And feedback for me, I don't know if we're going to continue with the healing field. Shelley would really like me to do a weekly dose of soul care, like I have my daily dose of soul care on Facebook. I'm not sure. I think the healing field is soul care, and not sure what direction is best serving for the good of the whole at this point. So I'd love your feedback if you have any suggestions or feelings about your experience in the healing field, what you'd like to see continue, and continuing to work in the field of wholeness here is so important to me. So I open that up.
I think very quickly, I'll say the fact that you said you want the hour and a half on the healing field and talk about healing and an alternative to the conventional healing and different facets of it, that in itself, I think will help get people to think of themselves differently in the whole process. And if somebody doesn't talk about it, how is it going to unfold? I mean, in some ways, your story of having the credentials of being, quote, the professional with the shingle versus I'm coming to hold the space, like Linda said, and you sitting there saying, professionally, I would have trouble doing that only because of this. So how do you do that dance? And I think that's a dance that a lot of people are going to step into when they find out that, you know, my modality isn't what's healing. What's healing is something else. And it's their compassion and their love and their feeling that, what can I do for this person? And as soon as they ask that question, the intuition is there if they want it. And it may take them where they don't expect to go. And it's like somebody like you talking, I don't want to say out of both sides of your mouth, he who speaks with forked tongue. I mean, in a way, that's the dance people have to start to confront. So I would recommend you share from that perspective, because I think that's where people are going.
Thank you for that feedback, Ken.
Yeah, you had said a long time ago at the beginning of the hour, last hour, about, or what came through my mind was envisioning, where are we going? How is the health industry? How is healing going to look going forward? Excuse me. And I can see an entire, you know, few nights like this just to envision. For example, in my right down the main street where I live, a dialysis center has opened up, a cancer center has opened up, another major hospital has opened up, and they're preparing for everyone to be sick. And I so want that paradigm to change so that there are wellness centers and we can teach the children how, exactly what we've been talking about tonight, how to be whole so they don't come into the entire paradigm of you're sick.
I have to.
That's how we create a well society.
Let me throw another card on the table. I was a radiation physicist, so I studied psychics to see how they perceived what they what they saw. And I was also on my journey, and I remember one saying to me, "You're going to be doing," I don't like the word therapy, but she says, "There will not be enough therapists, and you will find yourself kind of in that role." And I'm sitting there saying, say what? I have nothing to do with, quote, therapy. But if you think about what we've talked about in terms of getting past the belief structure, giving that alternative, it may be that this whole concept of what is therapy and what are you really doing when you talk to somebody may be the modality. It's like, how do you get people to, quote, become that creator from within and start confronting the beliefs that they have either consciously or unconsciously embraced and shed them? Now, I don't have an answer for that, but that was something that I was told, and this was over 20 some years ago, more like 25 years ago. And it stuck with me. And I see what's happening with this pandemic, the fear that's out there. And Eben Alexander, neurosurgeon, near-death experience. If you've seen some of his work on a program, Spirituality and Science, I think it was, he said, the ego will preserve itself even at the destruction of the human body. He says the ego is based on fear and...
That's pretty much enough.
Yeah, I forget the other word he used, and it was very powerful. I know made notes, but I thought it was interesting because he said that the biggest thing is ego is it's afraid, and you look at what's happening in the pandemic, and people are terrified, you know. And I'm just throwing out from a brainstorming standpoint. I don't have an answer. I'm just relaying tidbits that were dropped into my life.
I'd like to suggest
first
as
time.
well that
I would love to stay here, but I will be I'm getting ready for
You've got your
in
Japamala.
my healing room in another 20 minutes. I'm going to do the Japamala, so I have to go.
By
See
the
you
way,
there.
I wanted to just jump in and say goodbye. Thank you, Julie. I hope this will continue. I love it.
yes, that's what
And I want to hear from you, Julie, about
By all means.
about what you're here to offer. So
And this is something I've been exploring and working on for many, many years as I was guided to with the journey. So yeah, because part of what the Crystal Light Foundation will be doing is building holistic healing wellness centers where we do things a different way. And so this is right up my alley, I say, what I've been researching and working on and gathering for many, many years. So
This is the first time in human history that the entire population of the planet has been put on quarantine and been designated sick, the entire planet. And we have to just say, I do not consent to this belief, and change it in a tidal wave of love that cleans us all. And
our love actually has created this. Our longing for the shift has created this. This is loving. So, Julie, I would say this is the opportunity, because we don't know, because that new modality is beyond our mind and knowing and our beliefs and what it's been. So I wonder if this would be the space for exploration of somehow, maybe even in the physicalness of it, we would come together and after we do some of these, openings, and going deeper, and something would come out of that. And it seems we do have different perspective, which it has a lot to do with health and the mind-body connection. So I would love that you see. I'm sure when you sit with it, your intuition would guide you well. But as a feedback, I would love to see this to be explored deeply.
Julie, you have credentials to talk from both sides of the problem. And I think that's what's needed. Somebody who can, I am a such and such, and I'm facing this. How do I do it? How do I do the dance? Because then you open the door to, quote, the practitioners, and then you open the door to people who are accessing abilities within their psyche that they never knew they had. And you have that middle road thing, and I don't know that many people around who have that. So I would have to suggest, at least for a while, wing it, do improvisation. And
it's an and also.
what's
and
that?
what, Elizabeth?
It's an and also.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can do soul care because the soul care is needed
Sure.
for those of us who have come to a certain point. For me, I need this. I need to say I am a lover, a healing lover, and how do, let's go further into how we, as Nahid said, what can we go, where do we go from here? We can't restart the world as it was. Where do we go from here, and what's our role in that? And that's what I'm looking for in the connection field.
What about retitling it? What's the relationship between soul care and healing?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right. Bingo.
Well, and also that the role of planetary healer versus what we're looking at is traditional too, that we're all planetary healers as well, and bringing that all in further.
Mhm.
I like that. I have to tell you, when I sat down to write my book, to your point, Ken, when I sat down, I literally had started 2 books from my academic mindset of, I was going to write it, and I had to find the research and prove and you know, and I could not make any progress on my books. I could not. And I had 2 of them started. And then I broke my leg, and the book wrote me. And the book came through with this voice that you're calling forward, Ken, is that fully integrated, that it's not about an academic credential at all. And that voice was really important. The voice of
Should we be surprised that you created an accident to break your leg, to step out of mind to walk forward?
nope.
Yes.
So there's your story right there.
Yes.
I mean, you can, if nothing else, say, let me be a bad example. You don't have to break your leg to get in touch with what the universe wants.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big issues, that a lot of illnesses are caused by people just not financing health because they're too busy trying to please other people and whatever. Now, some people, illness is a part of their life path, but I think a lot of people are just sick because they don't know any better. That's what they think needs to happen.
My mother broke her neck so she could heal
Mm.
her family and her children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she knew it. I mean, she's like, well, I guess I had to break in the emergency room. It's like, I guess this is what it's going to take.
Wow. Well,
I think
thank you all for the feedback. I really appreciate your feedback.
I think you're being called, Julie.
I'm hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate
Thank you very much for having the sessions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, my love, Elizabeth. Thank you, honey.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Yeah. Bye for now. I'm sure you'll see me right back here next week, it sounds like.
You know?
Okay. Bye.